All right, so Three Ninjas Podcast, Domino, Hesh, Jones, Bobby. And if you're watching this on YouTube, as you see, we got the brother Hilton George, co-founder of BlerDCon. How you holding up, brother?
I'm holding up. I'm hunkered down, waiting for the plague to pass, like everybody else. Getting anxious. So I'm with the people on this one.
Quarantine's been fucked up for everybody, so nobody knows how to move. So I guess the reason why we got you on the line today, right, is obviously whole pandemic, whole world shut down and shit, right? So as right now, we know that San Diego Comic-Con is shut down, Otakon is shut down, a couple other cons are kaput for this year. And we still haven't heard word from BlerDCon and New York Comic-Con. I actually got the email from them. I got to look at that. I don't know what that shit's about. But
break, man. It could be. You want to check it now? It could change it. We might all need to get our.
It was something about a survey or something like that. I don't know what
should we have it? That's what it's
about. But the thing that's on everybody's mind, well, us blurs and shit that like BlerDCon. What the hell is going on with BlerDCon? Are we having a BlerDCon? What's up?
Well, I'll tell you, there's been a number of articles that have been shared that have done a pretty good job of explaining to the layperson how a lot of these venue contracts work and hotel agreements work, and how complicated it can be in an unprecedented scenario. This hasn't happened in 100 years. So there's, just all kinds of mayhem and stuff trying to figure out what to do, of getting a date either moved or postponed or canceled altogether. It can be very, very tricky. In our case, we're in a convention hotel, and they're probably the most, I would say, flexible, but also complicated because there's so many things involved as far as contracts go. So there's so many things that have to be locked down and ironed out before you know what you're able to do. Now, in the front end, all the conventions that were happening in March, late February, April, it was pretty locked in because all of the mayors, all the governors, all the county executives pretty much put a rule in place that you couldn't gather more than 10 people or 50 people anywhere at any time, which automatically nullifies your contract. And you can pretty much walk away from your con as far as canceling with this and see you next year. And there's no recourse, there's no fees, there's no penalties or anything like that. The clause is called force majeure. And so when you see conventions that are attached to hotels or attached to venues where those are clauses in their contract, they're waiting to find out what the city or what the state is going to do. Because pulling out of your contract, even so much as to announce that you're not going to have your event before you have that locked down, can incur tens of thousands of dollars of fees and penalties. So it's a real delicate dance as to what you're able to do and what you're able to announce and what you're able to guarantee for your attendees. So it's the first time for us. It's first time for almost everybody in the convention community. I mean, most of the things that we go through, as a nation are impactful: terrorist attack, flood, earthquake, and we kind of immediately have the event and then everything kind of goes toward rebuilding. But this is just an ongoing thing. We're at the back end of our detailed negotiations, and I should have some detailed announcements made or ready to be made by, I'd say, Monday night. I will tell you this, we are not interested in hosting BlerDCon in the ideal scenario at our current date in July.
Okay.
We would like to postpone. And so we're in the middle of negotiations of what dates can we postpone to? What are those dates ideal? When do we think there's going to be a vaccine? When do we think this is going to blow over? The only thing worse than having to cancel or reschedule your convention, is as cumbersome as they are, is to reschedule it and then have to reschedule it again in the same year. That would be the worst. It's like going on a date and having to call back, like, I'll be 15 minutes later. Honey, I know I'm already 15 minutes late, the date's over. So what I can tell people is to stay tuned to later evening, maybe even the overnight, before we kind of get our wording together and get all the details together. We want our announcement to be comprehensive so that everybody who has questions about, what happens to my badge, or what happens to my room reservation, or what happens to my panel submission, or what happens to my press credentials, what happens to, all of those things. If you're moving the date, we want to make sure we can confirm that, this is this, this is this, this is this, so that people aren't just running around in confusion and mayhem. But in the macro, I think 2020 is done. I really don't foresee the economy coming back. I don't foresee this administration getting it together to get this virus under any kind of control in 2020.
Hell no.
People got to get. I was explaining this actually to somebody who I was in conversations with at the Hyatt. I said, our crowd has to get comfortable with buses, trains, and planes. They got to get comfortable with staying in crowded hotels. They got to get comfortable with, being, because you've been to a con, nobody's doing 6 feet. That's not happening.
Yeah.
Right. So we got to get past social distancing. All of that has to be checked box before someone says, I think I'll go to a con. It's the last thing that people are going to do after going back to work, going back to school, going back to church, and all those things that have been sidelined. So yeah, that's what we're pushing. Like I said, we're this close of just dotting the T's and crossing the I's, and hopefully we'll have something like definitive for everybody. Maybe close the business later in the evening on Monday.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like you're pushing it to early 2021. You want to say
that would be very astute. I mean, I'm, like I said, I had high hopes for April. I was that dude in March who was like, okay, everybody, calm down. If we all just,
you was one of them.
I was that dude. I was like, we can do this. We just come together, hands across America. We can, we can all do this together. Give it the Care Bear stare. We can make it work. And every time I turn on the news, some more foolishness happening, and
beans.
I'm just like, more beans everywhere. So yeah, but it just kept just going like this, and going like this, and going like this, and finally I'm just like, you know what? Even if they got, let's be honest, man. There's about a third of this country that's cutting a fool. They acting like ain't no virus. They acting like it's all a hoax.
That's mainly Texas and Florida.
I'd like to believe that, but you haven't been to Wegmans and Lanham, so.
Oh yeah, Atlanta Wilder too.
Bro, I'm telling you. I have been out and about, a little bit over the past 2 months, and I tell you, there's people that just are not focused on this at all, and the infection rates keep going up, the death rates keep going up. People getting sick, and it's not going to be gone soon. We might not be in our basements, in a couple weeks, but we're not going to be at the club. We're not going to be at the movies. I know that. Happy hour's done, y'all.
Damn. That's not good.
IHOP is over. IHOP is canceled.
It's not looking good at all.
Need a happy hour back.
What?
I need happy hour back.
No, you don't. Man.
Yeah, dude.
No, you don't.
Yeah, dude.
It's like detox for you. Hey, yo, guys. We y'all don't listen, yo.
This brother done went through all 12 steps in 4 weeks. He got all the
back at one now. Like, relax.
Completely detoxed.
Oh, damn.
So now, what type of losses are you expecting, being that you have to push it back until either later this year or early next year?
I'm not actually projecting any losses. I think if we calculate that there will be a vaccine, because I think that's really the benchmark. We get a vaccine, everybody's going to line up at patient first, get their shot, and 2 weeks later, everybody's going to feel good about and confident about being in crowds and stuff again. The whole herd immunity will be a little bit closer to reality by, I think, the New Year's, because it's, a lot of people are getting it, and it's unfortunate, but it does build up crowd immunity. So I'm not anticipating a whole lot of losses at all. Actually, it's quite the opposite. I think, the crowd is going to be, the community is going to be so hard up for a con experience that I mean, whenever if the year of cons kicks back in January or February, whenever everything is okay, and everyone's singing "Brand New Day" from The Wiz, and we out dancing in the streets, whenever that day is, from that day for 12 months, it's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
People are going to be going to every con. That little obscure library con out in the boondocks. There's going to be 500 people there, and so I think that the crowd is going to be ready. They're going to be excited. There's going to be a lot of energy. Hopefully, people will have kind of repaired their savings, gotten back into the job force, working, and all that sort of stuff. And so I think it might actually end up being, from a numerical standpoint, the biggest year for BlerDCon. Simply because just the built up anticipation. I didn't realize how tied into the convention world my social life was until this. I thought I had friends that just lived around me and stuff until this happened. I'm like, wait a minute, I ain't got no friends. Where's everybody? Oh, I'm used to seeing everybody at this con or that con or whatever. And now that there's no cons, everybody's it's all Facebook. That's it. So, so I don't think there's going to be any losses. I think we're just going to be really grateful that we made it. I think we're going to be really excited as a community to be back out. And that means we're going to have to accommodate. We got to put on the con to act like we missed a year. You know what I mean? So we're going to have to really, 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 really step it up. But I think we're going to have some really cool stuff for y'all. I think there's going to be some cool stuff coming out about BlerDCon and what we're going to be doing over the next year, in addition to the convention at the end of the year, to let y'all know.
Right. So now you seem real like gung ho about like, oh yes, some point in the year or early next year, we're going to have a vaccine and everyone's going to want to go out. But for a lot of people, this is like a new normal, where it's like, okay, they're not as willing to go out or be in large crowds. Do you think that even if we're cleared to go out, you'll still see that big turnout, even though everyone's been stuck in the house since what?
It'll take time. I don't think that Fauci or the task force, whoever's comes to the podium at the White House briefing room and says, "All clear, you're good to go." I don't think that minute is going to be the one. I think we're going to start poking our head out. We're going to be like, you ever see the meerkats in the African plain where they kind of popping their head up, looking around, and then going back down and pop their head up, look around. People go, well, let me start with GameStop at this store. Let me just walk in there and look around. And, all right, I did that. All right, hold on. Let me run by the mall real quick. I sat in a movie for 3 hours. I'm not dead. All right, cool. So it might take a couple weeks. It might take one or two smaller conventions that lead up to us. I don't think we'll be the first. If you look on your calendar, some of the biggest conventions in the DC metro area, AwesomeCon rescheduled to the second weekend in December 2020.
Damn.
So that's going to be a test. There's like 80,000 people come through that convention because it's a pop culture con and, big convention center stuff. MagFest is going to be the end of January, the weekend of January 24th. So that's a second test about 30 days after that. Right. Less than 30 days after that is going to be KatsuCon at the National Harbor, same place as MagFest. So there's going to be 3 conventions happening through the winter. The biggest conventions that are pretty much on the DC Metro con calendar are going to be happening within 90 days of each other, starting in the winter and going through to the early spring. And so we will have a a chance to see, the people who come back from AwesomeCon didn't get sick, didn't die over the Christmas holiday, and everybody's like, oh, okay, Frankie's all right, and then boom, you got MagFest. These are all real crowded cons. You guys have been to MagFest, right?
No.
Nope.
Okay, it's like this. It's like, just imagine bodies, but I'm not praying. I'm just
pushing them together.
Yeah, it's just shoulders. Let me get by real quick.
Right here, yeah.
Same thing with KatsuCon. They're crazy, crowded, big, interior inside events. So if we come out the other end of those, I think everybody will have the confidence to be ready to go out, especially when the weather breaks and it's not raining or snowing or that crazy. So
now with all these cons so close together, right? People usually plan out like their year around certain cons, like, oh, we're going to this con in January, so we're going to this one in April, this one in July, and whatever. Now, has you and the team put together a plan to make people come to your con specifically instead of like going to the others within that time period? Like, do you guys have a bait plan?
Well, I mean, we've got we're bringing back all the stuff that we always have at BlerDCon and all the cons that have built up. The food trucks are going to be there. So, I mean, that's going to be big. The guest list obviously is going to shift, but we've got some really good line-ins on, what we might be able to do as far as guests. I think the features are attractive, but what I think what really resonates in people's minds about BlerDCon, or the BlerDCon experience more specifically, is the experience that people have in the convention among fellow Blerds and the Blerd community. And, to whatever extent we can continue to place, the pillars, the little anchor features in there that just allow for that space to happen. Music, we cater to the fandoms, like where's the cosplay contest, who's DJing, who's doing the concert, what video game tournaments are there, what about the panels, all of those things are going to be what kind of drive people, because that's what has been happening up until this BlerDCon was in question, is, and I see the chatter, people talk about what it felt like being in the space more than what we placed in the space for them to do.
Right.
Yeah, man, we was all, doing the sway, and we was all, party was crazy, and there was the DJ was playing my song, and there was this barbecue truck, and yeah, it was all that stuff. So we just got to make sure that's all there. And I think that's what's going to work. But we got some stuff that we're lining up that's going to make it unique. Can't announce a whole lot of stuff yet because it's not confirmed, but that's, I think, because we're also a niche con. There's not a lot of conventions out there catering to this crowd and putting Blerd front and center the way we do. So we don't really have a whole lot of like direct competition with, I mean, it's not like, I'm gonna go to Otakon or I'm gonna go to Anime Next. It's not apples and apples. We're kind of a unique thing on the tree for a lot of folks. So I think people will come as long as we're, well placed and give people enough notice and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but how does that work with like the higher tier guests that you have coming? Because everyone, like I said, plans out stuff within the year. So say if something that you were banking on that was going to be a big draw, and now that person or that panel can't happen because they got another obligation to go to. So how do you replace it? Do you replace it with some smaller ones, or like do you like, hey, we lost that one, but we can get someone bigger, hopefully, or just shut that whole?
It really depends. There's a lot of the guests that we're talking to and we're speaking to that they'll be able to come. The ones that we've announced. Once we talk with them about the dates and their availability, it's not like there's a whole lot of conventions that are kind of in this recreational mode of reaching out and rescheduling. And we don't really have anything on the dates that I'm not conflicting on any of the dates that we have available to us at this point. So conflicts are going to be low. But I also think that there's not going to be as many cons this starting in 2021. This is unfortunate, but there are going to be a good number of conventions that are going to die on the vine because of this spring. Smaller conventions that maybe didn't have a lot of the infrastructure or the track record, who had already spent their money on the venue. And if it's not a venue that would allow for them to get a refund of their money or transfer their date without penalty, that money's gone. The money, I mean, for us, the money we spent on promo, going places to promote BlerDCon, we were at Dragon Con and we were at all these cons in the fall, setting up our booth and table, staffing it, paying for the designs and the banners and all that sort of stuff. I mean, that money is spent, and every con is not going to be able to survive that. So I think you're going to have a less crowded con calendar this summer than we might have had, in any regular summer. So people are going to have less to choose from. And so I think that may benefit us in a way, that it kind of draws more people in who have maybe room in their budget for 4 or 5 cons a year. And if 2 of those cons just aren't going to happen anymore, then they might defer over to Blerd.
Okay. Now, what's your team's mindset going into this? Because everyone can't be on the exact same page as you. Where it's like they might have some reservations where it was like, okay, the coronavirus is going to clear up. We're going to have a vaccine and we're just ready to go. Some people might be like, I don't feel that safe.
Yeah, we had a conversation maybe 4 days ago where, I mean, really, like I said before, the vaccine is kind of the benchmark. If we were shooting for a date, I don't mind saying this, there was a date made available to us in early September to reschedule to, and I was like, oh, that's too soon. It's just not, there's no way that there's going to be a flattening of the curve, a vaccine, a treatment, all spread out around the world, and everybody's at a comfort level that close to in the calendar, So with us looking in 2021 for a rescheduled date, I think that there's a lot of confidence that we will have a vaccine by then. The NIH, the private industries, we keep an eye on all of this. They're talking about maybe putting a vaccine on the market in September, so we'll see, so that's really for the team, as far as safety is concerned. The other thing is that we're all a volunteer army, what I'm saying? We don't, everybody's got a day job and a lot of us work in education. So with BlerDCon having traditionally been scheduled during the summer, it's not a problem if school is out because anyone is a teacher, a counselor, intervention specialist or anything like that. No problem. School's closed. I got all the time in the world. If we end up in doing something in the spring, availability gets affected. But, we've got, it's something that we got redundancies for. We have a lot of cross training in our team. But I don't think there's a lot of trepidation as far as, even after the vaccine, can we go out? I'm very mindful to push this far enough out that we are going to be clear of, now stupid stuff can happen. Don't get me wrong. Right. You can plan all you want and then the virus does what it wants to do and it, whatever. But based on projections, the dates that we're looking at are pretty well into the safe zone. They're pretty well into the safe zone.
Now, do you guys have a plan in case anything like this happens again? Like, do you have a plan in place, like a corona clause now?
I'm calling Elon Musk and we're going to Mars, man. I'm done with this.
Mars, bitches.
I can't take it anymore. Like, I quit, man. Like, really, a pandemic? All the things that
white people can have this shit. Yo, let's go.
Black people too. I'm taking 3-4 people. That's y'all stuff.
Like, hey, Africa don't sound too bad. Let's go.
I just look, you have to remind your listeners, Wakanda isn't real. Don't go to Delta Airlines looking for that flight. You will crash into the mountain. There's no force field. It's not an illusion. That's a real hill. You will die. Just keep flying into the Wakanda forever. Boom.
Give us free boom.
Yeah, the thing is that we haven't had a pandemic like this since 1918, the Spanish flu. And you can see it. All of our systems of government and our infrastructure was just unprepared for this.
Not prepared at all.
And the con community is the same way.
We're used to aliens than fucking pandemics.
Well, you see they snuck the aliens thing on us, right?
Yo, they snuck the fucking aliens.
They were like, oh wait,
people's dying.
Everybody's hiding in their basement already. Aliens real. Anyway, keep going.
Anyway,
who, me? I didn't say that. What do you mean? I was like, wait a minute, did you just see? And then nobody cared. And I was like, yo, okay. Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
And nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody. Hey, look, we ain't even got nothing to say. We don't even care. We're like, man, just get me to.
I care, but
it's because you've seen him before, man.
I know I've seen some shit.
He know him.
I seen some shit before.
I like name him.
I know I wasn't crazy. I know what I seen.
What's Georgia? I know that.
Yo, you that dude on Independence Day who's like, yo, I see it.
No, I'm not that crazy.
I've been saying it. Damn year. But yeah, I think, just stepping out of the con scene for just a second, just talk about the world. I think if there is a silver lining to this, is that we are looking at our government preparedness and our societal preparedness for real emergencies that affect everybody, which we haven't had a defining emergency since World War II as a country, right? And, terrorism, we talk about it like, yeah, go America and stuff, but, ain't nobody bombing, Ames, Iowa. They don't care about, you try to crash a plane into a 3-story building in Savannah, Georgia. What are you going to do? Like kill 4 people, sprain somebody's ankle? Like they don't care. It doesn't affect them. Right. But a pandemic, and this isn't even the virus. Like this is not even like the outbreak contagion virus where like people get it and 48 hours later
you're dead,
they're bleeding out in the face. This is like a 2 weeks of, and 3% of the population dies. 10% have the worst flu experience of their life. Some of us have had it, didn't even know we had it.
Yeah.
So this is if we go and test these systems out, this is the one to test it on. So we're going to be more prepared for everything. We're going to start thinking about, like, we know what a bad president can do now. Like, there's a lot of people up until now that would say, and somebody who says this, oh man, it doesn't matter who's the president, man. It's all the same.
He's just a puppet. It's just for show.
I'm like, man, have you seen the difference? Do you think Hillary Clinton would be handling this as bad as this dude? Like, say what you want about emails and all this other stuff.
China, but that's just
yeah, she be killing more motherfuckers, but
I would look. We'd be sitting there talking about Black Widow right now.
I forgot that was supposed to come out.
Yeah, my nose running too. But anyway, I got the Corona sniffles. What you got? Yeah,
Corona sniffles.
That's all you got.
But the crazy thing is, like, people are saying that they probably had it last year. It just wasn't.
That's probably true.
Yeah, it just wasn't announced or anything.
After MagFest this past January, which happens the weekend after New Year's, historically every year at the National Harbor, they bring about 30,000 people into that con, and they're packed like this, man. It's a sardine can for 4 days. Eating, breathing, sleeping. Nobody's going outside, just circulating the air, you name it. And there was just so many people who were just like, I had the worst flu or the worst cough of my life or the worst chest congestion or head cold or whatever. And it lasted for 10 days and then I was better. I was like almost on my deathbed, whatever. And I think there was a lot of people who just had a really, really, really misdiagnosed cold experience or sinus infection or whatever, who actually had coronavirus in January and didn't know it.
I think I had it. How do you say that shit?
Hey, look, you take it to Kroger. See what happens. You come back with that itching throat. You be like, damn.
That's what it was. Yo, I thought I had strep throat. I thought I had caught strep throat for my kids. And I went to the doctor and I took a test. They did that long Q-tip swab. They stuck it in my nose.
Damn.
They didn't know what was wrong with me. I had a temperature like 103 for like 2 days.
Oh no,
I think you didn't tell us shit.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't tell us that.
Yo, my throat was fucked up for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, we said right next to you. You didn't tell us that.
Man, I think I had it. Yo, my throat was fucked up for 2 weeks, and then they called me and was like, "Oh, you can stop taking the medication." I said, "Bullshit."
Yeah, because it ain't working.
Taking shit till y'all tell me what's wrong with me. And it was like, "No, it's not strep." So I was like, "All right, what is it?" We'll give you a call back, and nobody called me back. So
then the whole country died.
Yo, and then
I'm calling the CDC. I think we found patient 0.
I think I had that thing, man.
He had it. He spread it. He went all over the place with it. So yeah, I think a lot of people had it and didn't know it. And like I said, for 85% of the country, you're going to have it and barely know you have it. Some people are going to have the worst strep throat or sinus infection or wherever it hits. It hits a little different for everybody. It'll be the worst cold or flu or whatever experience you've had, but it's that 5% of people that have they die. They have some underlying condition, or they get so much of it. I didn't know there was an issue with the volume. If there's a particle of it gets on you, there's a different kind of sickness experience with one particle on the end of your finger and you touch your face versus a 4-year-old sneezing right in your mouth, which is what they do. And so that's you can die from that.
Right. It's like a little part.
Yeah, exactly. So
you've been staying safe, brother. Everything's been good on your front.
Well, yeah, I'm a really good hermit. I didn't know how good I would be. I mean, I don't know if y'all can see this, but hold on, I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah, we see the cabin.
You see what I got?
Oh,
I'm good. I'll tell you that. Like y'all got some coronavirus. All right, cool, man. I'm stocked up. Like as long as I got some ice and some chaser. No, but it's you know, I got a good cable package, and you know, I managed to. Okay, so this is a funny story. I just share it with y'all because I like it. So I was one of those geniuses that lost his job about 3 weeks before the coronavirus hit. So I was already in the unemployment system. I was there was no line, you know. It's like it's like catching the matinee of a Marvel movie. Like, oh, okay, this is cool. Thursday at 3:00, I'm in here, you know. I'm in. Like all of a sudden, all my friends is in there. Like, oh, you here too? What you do? Oh, they fired everybody. Oh, damn. Like, okay, they're not playing with that stuff. Well, all right, man, you know. And then now you got 30 million people and. You know, folks that can't get their benefits, they can't get into the system. You know, it's crazy, man. And that's the stuff that's going to be hard to come back from. That's you know, people are feeling real insecure about their jobs and
the financial stuff. Yeah.
That financial is no joke. I mean, it's been pretty inspiring to see the banks and stuff being more accommodating. You know, my car note. You know, there's like, oh, we'll, you know, 3 months, we're going to let everybody not pay their car note for 3 months, you know, or, you know, your student loan debt, you know, you don't have to pay for 6 months. You can do a forbearance on that based on coronavirus and the economy and stuff. And so that's been really helpful for a lot of people, myself included. So I haven't, other than going and getting food, you know, I cut all my relatives out by phone, you know, my folks are down south. They are not on the same page. They are not on the same page. They are chilling in the south. They act like, what? Y'all in the house. Oh,
they going out?
Yeah. Like I talked to my father about it, and you know, he says, oh yeah, we're hunkering down, you know, me and your mom, I'm just piddling around the yard. Took about 5-6 trips to Lowe's, get some mulch for the like, whoa. Like, nigga. Back up, rewind to that whole going to get mulch. Like, oh no, don't worry about that. I'm good. You know, I just went and grabbed it and threw it on the truck, and you know, then I took it out to the rental properties and I was putting it down. I'm like, wait, you went somebody's house with mulch you bought? This is lockdown is supposed to be. So like in the South, like as bad as it got was they closed the movie theaters and they closed the dining spaces in the restaurants, best I can tell.
Yeah.
Whereas with us, you know, gas and groceries was about all you could do for a long time. So yeah, we're locking down hard in DC. And New York is just a whole other world.
Yeah.
Whole other world.
Oh, New York is zombie land. Not fucking with it.
No. We will have zombies in New York.
For real.
They're burying people in the streets, man. They're digging up ground and burying them in the. You know, you've seen it. It's crazy.
It's just too many bodies. They got bodies on.
Nowhere to put some bodies.
They don't know where to put them.
Yeah, there's nowhere to put them. They don't got nowhere to put them. This many people die at once at the same time. Like, yeah,
76,000 people, man. Like, come on, like that. Yeah, can we fathom that number? That's like Ohio State.
Yeah, it's like.
Yeah.
Faculty, staff, attendees, online grad, PhD program twice. That's what 76,000 people are. And dead. Like not, you know, off the grid, not in the soul stone. You can't snap them back. They're gone. Like, and nobody, it's too big of a number. Like 3,000 people dead on 9/11. We can factor that. Like we know we've seen 3,000 people in a room. We know what 3,000 is. 76,000 people. We don't even know what that number looks like with bodies. You know what I mean? So it's hard, I think, for a lot of folks who are not really, really, really focused on this sort of thing and are not forced to do it by the government, are not really tuned in to what's really going on until it hits their doorstep, unfortunately. And I hope that doesn't happen.
Right. Now, do you think the other cons pulled the plug too early? Because we, you know, with a lot of people rescheduling and stuff like that, but with other cons, they just like, nah, we're not even gonna chance it. Like, no, we're just shutting this shit down.
I don't think so. I think a lot of cons, I think a lot of them were forced to do it. I think the hotels and convention centers, like the DC Convention Center, the Javits Center in New York, those were turned into triage hospitals. You know, you putting gurneys and hospital triage set up, and you can't.
How do we have New York Comic-Con if it's held in the Jacob Javits Center, and the Jacob Javits Center was being used as a place to house COVID-19 patients?
Look at my face.
He's gonna get some Lysol, get some Fabuloso,
Okay,
clean it up.
all right. Now here's the deal, y'all. Here's the deal. This might be an opportunity and a tragedy all in one. Okay, if you have ever tried to get a pro pass for New York Comic-Con, now's your year. I guarantee you, they got extra pro passes, press passes. Sign up for that stuff.
For the low.
They're like, yes, please. You know, you get on, because once you're in, I'm telling you this, because once you're in their roster for pro passes and stuff like that, then it's easier to do it the year after year after year. It's like San Diego Comic-Con. But I don't foresee Bill de Blasio allowing 200,000 people to descend on Lower Manhattan.
Right.
You know, in October.
In October, when his chances is probably going to be coming back up a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, like I said, this man is got his meeting would probably be, okay, we got refrigerators with dead bodies in them sitting in the Bronx, you know, and on 46th Street and these designated places. Oh yeah, by the way, there's some comic book nerds that want to come to town. Is that no? All right, cool. We'll just go ahead on and write that off. That's New York Comic-Con right there. You just saw the whole episode. You know, cue the what's that? Curb Your Enthusiasm credits. Just
motherfuckers out here. Stay home, go home.
Exactly. So I don't think anybody went. Got too zealous, because no one really had incentive to do that. You know, it takes a whole year to plan for a con, no matter where your con sits on the calendar. And they start planning, you know, the week after their con ends. And to cancel or reschedule can be like one of the most devastating things that can happen to your organization. And I know that Awesome Con, they waited as late as I think they could, because they were probably like me, hopeful that February and March would be, you know, kind of a defining 3-4 weeks. And it was just like, nah, that's not going to happen. So they went clear of everything from that point, which was a month and a half ago, to December. I mean, Dragon Con, everybody's giving Dragon Con shit because, you know, they have announced that they're going to happen. I said, but they're probably in the same boat that a lot of cons are, because they've got more than just one hotel that they're dealing with. They got like 7. I don't know if any of you, have you guys ever been to Dragon Con?
No.
Okay.
That's the next one I want to go to.
It's like 100,000 people descending on 8 square blocks of Atlanta for the purpose of nerd activity. And it's across 5 hotels, the America's Mart 2 buildings. You know, it's pretty much all of Northeast Atlanta is Dragon Con. So with all those different kinds of venues that they have, municipal buildings, government buildings, private properties, hotels that they're using, the Atlanta Aquarium, you know, all of those are incorporated. Cancellation policy for something like Dragon Con has got to be just ridiculous. So, and they're the last kind of holdouts, you know, and people have been giving them hell, but like they got to wait for the mayor has to say this, the governor has to say it's not happening before they can be free of any, you know, remaining paperwork and stuff like that. So I don't think they're happening, but they may, you know, it's Georgia, you know, and Georgia's not Atlanta. You know, if you've been to Georgia and you've been to Atlanta, you know they're 2 different places.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Right. You know, you can look at your calendar, start to go back into the civil rights movement. The further into the state you go, you start hearing in the heat of the night playing in your iPod. Spotify is tripping. What is going on?
What you doing here, boy?
I'm trying to warn you. Spotify trying to warn you. Fuck out.
Remember one time I went to a Waffle House and all the white people just turned around like, I was like, oh shit.
There's some nigger here saying he wants some pancakes.
You niggas want pancakes? Oh shit, no.
Man,
How about turn you with a nigga pie?
no, there's still places in some parts of this country where we simply aren't at. And some of those places are in rural Georgia, as we see. And where, if you go to it, like I said, people say, "Oh, I love Georgia." No, you don't.
You love Atlanta.
You love Atlanta. And that one flight you took where you did the layover in Savannah, you like that. That's it. That's what happened. You didn't go to Macon. You didn't go to Valdosta. You didn't go to Chicken Neck. It's a whole, yeah. So anyway, I think they're going to be the last holdout, and then everything after Labor Day is going to be in question. And this is just my prediction, because here's what's going to happen. And you heard it here first. We already cutting the fool. There's a lot of folks that can't hunker down like us. Us nerds, a lot of us kind of have an introvert gene that allows us to be by ourselves or communicate virtually. We're used to that. So we probably take it a little bit better than some folks. There's some people that just can't stay in the house. You know people that can't stay in the house the whole day.
I know a bunch of them.
Right. So Memorial Day weekend is coming up. People are going to cut a fool. People are going to go to any beach that's open. They're going to be at all the sales, Memorial Day sales. They're going to go, if the movie theaters were open, which I don't think they'll be, there are going to be people there. But we're going to act up. And then we're going to have a spike 4 weeks later from that. The next thing that's going to happen is 4th of July weekend. Where do you think these people with the big flags talking about, I want my freedom? Where are they coming? They're going to be running around DC with these big flags. I don't know where they get these flags from. I don't know. But anyway, they're going to be running around here. They're going to be on buses and trains and stuff like that. Then there's going to be a spike from that. And whether Dragon Con happens or not, Labor Day weekend, 5-day weekend leading from the summer to the fall, it's just going to be crazy. People are going to go crazy by then. We'll be more what's the word? Stir crazy from being in the house. It'll be better weather, warmer, hotter. And if there's anything going on at all, we're going to go to that. And then there's going to be a spike after that, and I think that's just going to be our relationship with the virus until we get a vaccine. And, unfortunately, it's going to cost us, some people's health and some lives and all that sort of stuff. But we're on this ride.
That fucking sucks.
I bring such joyful news.
Hilton fucking death bringer.
Depressing. Why do we call this dude again? Like,
exactly, right? Now, is it at all feasible to move cons to like a less infected state?
Well, I think that's a real challenge. Somebody asked me a similar question, and it's not a bad question.
It's mass space in Wyoming.
So many people travel from other states to go to cons, and that might not happen in like a state like Texas, where you could drive 10 hours in either direction.
You can cross over like New York, Texas, Florida, Cali, something like that. I'm thinking something like Midwest, something like that.
Yeah, if you're in Utah, you could probably do a more local con and know that you're kind of pretty much have Utah people attending. But if you do something in DC or New York or Atlanta or anywhere on the Eastern Seaboard where all the states are kind of pancake right on top of each other, you're going to get multiple states. And again, like I said, people are real con excited. And so what's going to happen is that they're going to go, the first couple of cons that happen are going to get a lot of traffic. And so I don't know if it's possible anywhere except maybe some very specific markets. But it'd have to be somewhere out in the Midwest, like rural Alaska. There's cons in Alaska, by the way. Where's your con? Greater Samoa. We're going to move it to the Galapagos Islands, get the lizards out the way, and real local, just a local thing. A couple of natives will be there with us. But yeah, if you're doing something in a small market like that, maybe later in the fall, early winter, you might be able to get away with something. But anything else, man, we're gonna be there. We are going to be there.
Hey, y'all asses the fuck home. This shit ain't worth it. All these cons, they cool. You gonna fucking be congested.
Hey, right? Write that down. It's got so many double entendres, It's congested because the con is crowded. It's congested because I got fluid in my lungs. I like it.
Conjugating.
Conjugating.
You said conjugating.
Thinking of conjugating.
Dropping the pearls here. I'm stealing all of this. Hit my marketing team up. Brother said conjugate.
We here. Yo, we got mad ideas, but we don't want to use it. But it's okay though. Cool. So, So the info that we got today is that the con still might be going on, maybe late 2020, early 2021. Hilton and his people ain't scared of y'all. Fuck these other cons. If they happen, they happen. If they don't, they don't. And yeah, we should be expecting news soon.
Yeah, like I said, I was actually hoping to have all the I's dotted and T's crossed by the time we were sitting here, so I can drop the whole thing. But if I drop like the whole news, then everybody's inbox and the bureaucracy is going to blow up, and we won't have answers until close of business on Tuesday. It might be a little earlier, but like I said, we're definitely looking at moving the date beyond the coronavirus. We're just going to have to hunker down and make it work. It's a complicated process. The cities involved, the states involved, the governors involved. There's just a lot of different factors that we got with sponsors, vendors, attendees, volunteers, staff. Everybody's got to kind of be considered in any decision we make. And like I said, man, if a meteor had hit 2 months ago, it'd be an easier thing to navigate, than if, we got bats coughing in China and now we're all,
This whole shit is straight out of a comic book, but I don't think people realize it yet.
No, it's out of the movies, man. We've seen this movie before. I don't know why we're failing this test.
Yo,
we've seen.
We got mad movies. We got like the Outbreak movie.
Every Outbreak movie with zombies, with coughing monkeys. We've seen all of these movies. We know exactly what to do, and we're making all the wrong decisions. And I don't understand it. It's like we remember the stuff we shout at the screen about. When Becky has to go inspect what was that noise, and you're like, don't go, it's gonna kill you.
Yo, what did I tell you on the last podcast? I was like, yo, this is straight out of a fucking movie.
We're all sitting here and we're looking at our friends and our family. It's like the CDC,
but we didn't think it was gonna be us though going outside and looking, because black people be like, yo, I heard that shit, I'm cool on it though.
Listen,
go outside and check, hunker down.
This is part of the reason why I think we're catching a little bit more of this hell than we expected. Is because we as black people have exempted ourselves from so many pop culture threats in our own minds. I'm guilty of it. Like, if you looked on my timeline, man, I was saying that if you drank water from a hose as a kid,
you're immune to this shit. Yo,
I literally put that out, and I was confident.
I still think that's true though.
And not just water from the hose. I'm talking about like you didn't let it run out. It was like hot for a while. The hose water was still in there. You were right in,
a little warm.
Straight, that little warm water that was sitting in the hose.
God damn. You ever made mud pies? You immune to this shit.
You ain't got to worry.
You got mad amoebas just sitting there fighting shit.
Like, nah, bro, we got this, dude. You ain't.
Nah, we got this. Whoa, vaccine. We got this.
This our block. It's
our block.
I want my corner. So we were thinking that, man, and so we were kind of like doing our little, Arthur walk, like it don't mean us, like it China.
Now we got the Arthur fist.
Like Wuhan.
Now we just fucking Rona. I had plans this summer.
And then we see, and then they give us very clear directions. And it's like, the president, even though he's a Cheeto, he's up at the podium, just like in the movie. And you got the science experts flanking them on either side. And they're saying, don't do this and don't go there and all this. And what's the first thing we see? We see house parties, people lined up outside the club, people chilling in the house, and it's just like we all inspecting the noise at Camp Crystal Lake, man. We all in the woods trying to figure out where the ha-ha is coming from. Like I'm gonna solve this mystery. What's that?
What is that? Sounds like a mosquito.
Go ahead and help the natural.
Is this you, Johnny? Is this
Hey,
you
Jack,
better stop playing around. Yeah, it's either there's a killer in the woods. I'm gonna go take a shower. How about you? That's my go-to move for murderers in the woods.
Oh, man. So Hilton, is there anything that we missed? Anything that you need to say before we let you go?
Yes. I really, really, really want your listeners to know that, this is something that we really appreciate people's patience with. I don't know if I would have this level of patience with any business I deal with, but the con community, the Blerd community, even though they're nervous, they've been very understanding thus far, even though we are probably going to be one of the last summer cons to announce. They've just been so patient. So I really appreciate it. Our team appreciates it. We work round the clock pretty much, round the calendar pretty much. And for having something like this move is just a seismic event. And there's going to be benefit for that. The announcements that are going to come out in the next 2 weeks are going to be both a remedy and an address to what it is that is going on. And we're going to be doing everything we can to give everybody the experience that'll be worth the wait. And we're kind of excited for all the things that are coming up. And, I'll be the first one to let you guys know when it happens.
Word. So hopefully we hear something soon, man. You stay safe out there, your family. Hope everybody's safe, man. Just
you too.
Stay the fuck from outside. Yo, chill. Let them die. And then when con time roll around, drop the prices on the tickets a little bit. Little Rona special, because y'all listening, y'all live. Boom, 30 off. We off.
You say looking for the hookup. You get scalpers in front of the con.
Nah, but real shit though. Stay safe. Try to just be healthy as possible. I just want everybody to stay safe, and hopefully, when this con does happen, we do see y'all there. So
we're gonna cut it. Something back from Hilton. We're gonna cut a fool, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, hopefully, man.
I can't wait to be back on the show to hash out the announcements too. So just let me know.
Got you, man. So whenever you know something, just hit me up, and we'll make it happen.
All right, sirs. Y'all be good.
All right, man. Be easy.